All right. Good morning, everyone. Matt Braden here from the GPAR team. Thanks for everybody's patience. We had a couple of things pop up from the councilman this morning. So duty called and he had to take care of some business in his district. You know, they're on the clock, round the clock. So sometimes you just got to go with the flow. You know what it's like as a realtor. It's the same deal, right? Clients calling every hour of the day, any day of the week. So with that, we're happy if our big Phillies win, and we're really happy to have all you here with us this morning. I'm going to pass the baton off to our president, President Roderick Walker. Good morning, Roderick.
Good morning, man. Good morning, GPAR. Good morning, Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Roderick. Great to see you.
Likewise, likewise. So yeah, I know you had some pressing things this morning, but again, we want to thank you for your time, and we understand duty calls. You need to be in attention. So thank you.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate things that happen at times, but we know it's important. Every topic is important to all folks, and so I'm happy to join and help and do whatever I need to do with you all.
Thank you. And we appreciate your sentiments there. Let's just start. Let's just dive right in. But let's talk about you giving us an introduction of yourself and the district that you represent. And give us some highs and lows and just a macro overview of your district and how things are going there.
Yeah, my name's Mark Squilla, representing the 1st District. I was first elected in 2011, took office in 2012. I'll be just finishing up my 3rd term, looking to start my 4th term in January. Obviously, I have a really great, diverse district, both culturally, ethnically, socioeconomically, and it is really a pleasure to deal with the residents in my district. They're very engaged and sometimes very needy, but as an elected official, our job is to work with the constituents and hear their concerns and try to address them the best way we can. One thing you realize in this job that you cannot make everybody happy. We have residents that have different ideologies and people who think differently on different topics. So the goal is to make sure everybody is heard, listened to, and then at the end of the day, make a decision on how best to move forward. One of the biggest challenges we're having right now is public safety. Public safety needs to be a main priority for council, the administration, the new administration coming in, making sure that we can have all the best ideas we want to attract business, to reduce taxes, to do all these things. If people do not feel safe, people who live here won't want to stay. People who work here won't want to come into the city. Visitors won't want to visit. So the main priority is how we deal with what it feels like, and the perception becomes reality of just total lawlessness that's out there. We have high violent crime issue that's going on now. It seems to be curtailing a little bit, but that's not the only issue that people deal with. It's the quality of life stuff that really sets people off, from retail theft to carjackings to breaking into homes and things like that, unhoused folks that we're not addressing and helping, the addiction opioid epidemic, and challenges we have in Kensington. We have a lot of plans moving forward of how to address those things. We have been working with the new administration, or the possible new administration coming in, on changing some of our policies, because I believe that a lot of the issues we have are based on policies that we as a city create. What laws to enforce, how to address the unhoused and addicted population, and all those things. I'll leave it up for some questions, but we do have some plans moving forward of how to tackle that. But you can have all the laws on the books that you want. If you don't have the will to enforce them, nothing's going to change. And we see what happens when we take a light tack toward crime, that people get to know what your policies are, and therefore keep pushing the level of crime to a new height, because they know that there's not going to be consequences. So, happy to talk with you, and I know you guys have some particular issues you want to talk about, so we'll let you move on to that.
No, that's good. Thank you. Thank you for the overview. You touched on the opioid crisis in Kensington, and from what I understand, you created or helped put together a task force about 10 months ago, early this year, on how some of those proceeds from the settlement would benefit the city. And I understand some of those funds have been allocated. If you could just touch base on where you are in that process and what are those programs looking like in an effort to bring new programs to help the citizens and the members and folks who are affected by the opioids. Can you share some light on that, Councilman?
Sure. The task force that is going to oversee it doesn't get to dictate where the money goes, but gets to look at how the city allocated their dollars. I would wish that, we're hoping that this task force will eventually make recommendations that the administration will adhere to, but it doesn't have that authority. So there's certain guidelines of that money, how it's supposed to be spent. And we want it to be spent on how to address the opioid epidemic and addressing the need for both treatment and how we help the folks get off the street. There has been dollars spent in other ways, and that's being reviewed right now. Certain nonprofits are getting money. We believe some money is actually going toward groups that may have also helped create problems in that, giving out like tents and things like that sometimes cause the problem to continue to grow. So our process right now on the oversight committee is to get folks to look at how the spending is being done, making sure it's done properly, and then as we get additional dollars, recommending where that money should go. I believe that we need to look at a continuum of care. We need to use those resources so that we can help folks that are in addiction to be able to get treatment, whether it's MAT, medical assistance treatment, whether it's rehab, and get the folks off the street in a sense that we can then follow them for a long period of time, not just a 30-day process. So the goal is to come up with a facility that will be able to triage folks initially, get them in and do a full workup, mental health, addiction services, see what is necessary, and then be able to then help them start the process of recovery. And that is through first housing, which means you have them off the street into either a temporary housing, work with them, their addiction issues, get them into a plan, and then work on then job creation, job training, and then hopefully more moderate housing, and then more permanent housing. We believe housing is a way through this, and we know that if we continue working with these folks, the odds of people relapsing get less the longer they are in treatment. So the goal is to have a continuum of care through a long period of time. And we're looking upwards of 1 year to 2 years of this process playing through, and using the resources to do that. Instead of just cleaning up around the problem, which we seem to be doing now, which we're spending a lot of money on, addressing the folks that are on the street, but not really addressing the problem, which is addiction.
Thank you. And if I understand correctly, some of your partners for this program and this task force is Thomas Jefferson University, Temple Health Systems, and Project Home. What are those stakeholders talking about in regards to strategies on bringing together programs to support that community beyond 30 days and 12 months as you laid out this morning?
Yeah, the problem, I mean, everybody's supportive of the long continuum of care process that we have. The issue is there are some people with different ideologies. Some people think that, we should just wait until people are ready in order to have treatment. Other folks have believed that sometimes we need to reach out to these individuals and help them make a decision. We set up AMP Court, Alternative Misdemeanor Program Court, where we could then send folks into the court system to offer them services. And therefore, when they commit a minor crime, be able to bring them in, offer them the services that we're providing. If they take these services and complete the program, they could have charges dropped. If not, there would be consequences for retail theft, illegally using in public, breaking into vehicles, things like that. Other folks that we're working with do not believe in that model. They believe that the people should continue to do what they're doing until they're ready and just make it as comfortable as possible for them. So there's not a total agreement from everyone on how to deal with the opioid epidemic. But we do know one thing is what we're doing now is not working. The issue is continuing to grow. We have more people, and it's not even opioids anymore. I mean, we know fentanyl's out there, but now we have xylazine, which they call Tranquil on the street, that's creating these wounds that are really affecting people physically. We all agreed at wound care, where we looked at mobile units. Penn was very supportive of these mobile units to go out and treat these folks that have these wounds because of our contaminated drug supply that we have. It's no longer just opioids that are in the mix. And the challenge is, even though people may think differently on how to address different things, we got to look at keeping every option open as best we can without negatively impacting the surrounding communities. Now, we did a lot in Kensington where we opened up a lot of services for folks, and a lot of people in the Kensington community believe that, we tried to make that sort of an isolated zone, a containment zone, so it wouldn't spread, but they have to deal with the negative impacts of some of our policies. Needle exchange, it used to be a 1-for-1 needle exchange where if you gave in 3 needles, you would get 3 needles. Right now, the way it's happening is if you give a needle, you could get, 10 needles. And what we see that's happening out there is there's an abundance of needles in and around the community that impact negatively the people who live there. So we have to address this in a way that deals with both the unhoused folks that are on the street and also what are the negative impacts on the surrounding community where our policies are being implemented. And it's not an easy task, and we are going to disagree on that. And I think at the end of the day, as we try things that don't work, we have to be willing to say, you know what, we did try this. This may help one side, but not the other. We need to adjust. And that's a hard thing to do, admitting that, one of the things you're trying is not working. But I think we need to take that approach more and say, hey, listen, this is something that everybody's been doing for a long time. Let's just keep doing it, even though we're having a negative impact on the surrounding community. And as an elected official, we got to address both needs, which makes it harder than people who are advocating or harder than maybe somebody who's in the medical field. They may have a different mindset and saying, we just got to treat the medical issue, not worrying about the negative impacts it may have on the community. So there's not always a 100% buy-in from everybody, but I think differences of opinions are important, and we need to keep the dialogue going in order to come up with something that's really going to address the needs of both the people on the street in addiction and the residents living in and being impacted by it.
Thanks, Councilman, for sharing that information. It's good information. You open talking about the public safety and the quality of life here in the city of Philadelphia. And so if I could ask, what strategies is City Council discussing with the new administration in regards to improving public safety and the quality of life? Is there a 3-point program or something that you can talk about and share with this space right now? regards to improving public safety and quality of life? Any specific programs that you'd like to see implemented through this next administration?
Yeah, and one of the plans actually was a plan by Councilmember Parker before she was running for mayor, implementing additional police officers doing sort of beat foot patrols, community policing, engaging police, building trust between police and neighbors by getting the same officers in a community that deals specifically with them. They know the people who live there, they know people who are outside the community, and are better able to address those needs. But we talked about AMP Court, and that's one of the processes that we believe if we could get people in to know that there's consequences to your actions, but also that's part of a diversionary program. So the diversionary program, if people do make a mistake, you have an option to go through services, take services that are given to you, and then your charges could be dropped if you complete them. But if you don't complete them, then it's not a diversionary program. It would be a consequence where you'd be charged with a crime. But the other part of it is prevention program. So the first part should be prevention, where we put a lot of money in to groups and organizations that are working with us to reach out to individuals to prevent them from committing a crime. We had something called Focus Deterrence. There's a similar program called GVI right now, Gun Violence Initiative. And the goal there is to reach out to individuals most likely to be shot or do the shooting. And so the prevention is the key, we think, to helping people before they commit a crime. But then the second prong is diversion, where you have something like AMP Court, and we want to bring community court back. Community court is for really minor offenses, urinating in public, quality of life, blocking the highway, things like that, where community court used to be able to do many cases a day, hundreds of cases a day, where you would then be able to give community service hours to individuals who are committing these offenses. And we also believe by having community court, working with individuals that do community service times, we believe that, those folks, it could be a win-win. One is that they're getting a consequence for their action. Maybe it's not jail time, but then they got to do community service in an area where they committed the offense. In other words, if it was graffitiing a wall, they would be there to go clean the wall up. If it was doing something within the neighborhood, breaking into cars, something like that, they would be there cleaning up the playgrounds and the lots and the alleys in the neighborhood. All these things to be able to show the folks that, hey, we know this is a minor offense and it may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to us in the city. This is our consequence to you doing this. And therefore, either they're embarrassed not to do it again, or when they are doing it, they feel like they're giving back something to the community surrounding where they committed that offense. So that is the proposal for, we have AMP Court up and running. It's not being used. It was supposed to be 5 days a week by now. The district attorney has to send folks over to AMP Court, but community court is not up and running yet. And we'd love to have it up and running in the new year to address what we're calling the diversion program, right? So we have a prevention program to stop crime before it happens. You have a diversion program to help people who committed minor offenses or maybe got in trouble one time and looking for a second chance. But then the third part is, which we're really not doing right now, is enforcement. Enforcement of crimes, so people know that there are serious consequences when you commit multitude of crimes. Even shoplifting. It shouldn't be where you have 20 arrests for shoplifting and you're still out there doing the same thing over and over again. We need to make sure enforcement is carried throughout the realm of individual crimes. If there's a consequence for a crime, enforcement does work because behavior changes. And if people know that you're not enforcing certain things, and we've seen this with retail theft and other things, they will continue doing that until there is a consequence, right? We were at one meeting in Kensington, and district attorney's office says that, incarceration didn't work for retail theft because the person was away for a year and a half, and when they came out, they started robbing again. Well, my take was it did work. It worked for a year and a half while he was in there. He did not rob one place, right? So, we have to look at those things, and we can't blow them off because the quality of life issues that lead to more serious issues need to be addressed along with the violent crime issues and the gun violence activity. And I do believe in the new administration, at least from what I'm hearing, January 2nd, that they're going to be signing some executive orders immediately to change the mindset of how we're going to address a lot of these issues and really set the record straight of what the administration wants to do. And support from council. Obviously, we need support from both bodies. And then also work with our judges. Our judges are the last line when there is enforcement measures taken, what the rulings would be, right? Now, we're not saying you lock the key, lock everybody up and throw away the key, but the offenses and the time has to be looked at depending on what the crime was, case by case, and making sure that, you know, whether bail is needed for high violent crimes, whether bail is not needed for less violent crimes, right? And work with the judges on that. So we would have every branch of government lockstep in the executive branch working through the administration through their policies, the legislative branch, which is council, which if we need to change laws or enhance laws, we could do that in legislative body. And then the judicial branch, where you could work with both the legislative and executive branch, understanding what the policies and the direction of the city where we want to go. So that's sort of the three-prong approach with prevention, diversion, and enforcement, and then also a three-prong approach with government, where we have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch all working in the same direction.
Thank you, Councilman, for sharing that. Rental properties have been a big focal point in City Council, including rent control. But can you share, or do you have a position on rent control?
Yes, there is a big push for rent control through the city of Philadelphia. My position is I'm still not convinced it works. There has been areas that have used rent control in certain municipalities, and I think that, you know, looking at the data, to me, it's still not convincing that you know, rent control really works in a sense. Now, I'm for affordable housing. I'm for finding affordable housing, helping to subsidize affordable housing. And I think we need to work is, how do we work with both private landlords and people who are renting to make sure that we have affordable options for everybody, right? And we have a controversial thing we're doing with short-term rentals. And part of the reason was not just because of problems. Short-term rentals are great for landlords who buy property, and I think the return is greater. But we're having negative impacts in the neighborhood by these folks buying up these homes, not living in and around the community, and then having a negative impact on the surrounding community. But it also affects the number of available units that we have citywide. And so therefore, the affordability of it becomes a challenge to us. So I think we need to look at it two ways. One is to make sure we increase the access of units, and also look at ways that if we are going to subsidize affordability, look at it in a way where both the landlord and the tenant could get a win out of it and benefit, where the landlord could get part of that subsidy and the tenant could stay there for an affordable amount.
Thanks, Councilman. Look, I think at a high level, you know, just nationwide, we're probably, I think the estimate is between 5 and 7 million units below the housing stock that we need to, you know, put citizens in good, clean, affordable housing. Here in the city of Philadelphia, over the past 20 years, I think we've been plagued with the same micro data that metric that, you know, we're short housing for those who need it. What are your thoughts around, you know, making new housing stock available for developers so we can build and maybe convert some of the existing underutilized inventory, you know, via land bank or some of the other sites to bring additional houses to the market?
Well, I'm working very close with the land bank. In my district, it's hard because I don't have many structures at all in my district that could be like rehabbed and reused. I'm a big proponent of rehabbing these properties and get them on the market, but I don't have that many. So we've been working with the Turn the Key program. Not sure if you're familiar with that. Turnkey
Oh, yeah.
program is a program where the city, we put money in to help offset closing costs, down payments, and even a second mortgage for people who qualify. They're city workers who make under 120% AMI, so they make under like $80,000 to try to get them to become first-time home buyers. And we're doing that through subsidy of the land with private developers. It's called the 5149 program through the land bank, where if you could build what we're calling 51% affordable homes, you can then do 49% market rate homes, and therefore subsidizing the land to help that make that economically feasible for the developers. And so let's say you have 10 properties that you see available through the land bank. You could go through those 10 properties. All right, I'm going to do 6 affordable and I'm going to do 4 market rate, right? You get the land for a nominal value, so that's a bonus. And then the market rate should be able to compensate and subsidize for the affordable housing. Now, the affordable housings are coming in. These are single family homes right now, the ones that we're doing. They're coming in around $250,000 to $275,000. Now, a lot of people would say, well, that sounds great because we know what a brand new home costs in the city of Philadelphia. But other people would say, that's still not affordable to the city worker, the person making $40,000 a year. And that's where the Turn the Key program comes in. We have people apply for it where they have to go through classes, financial literacy classes, understanding mortgages and things like that. They apply for this program. They get accepted into the program. We help them with our Turn the Key program for down payment and closing costs. But we also help them with a second mortgage up to $75,000. So if that house is $250,000, we get a second mortgage for $75,000. You only have to borrow $175,000, right? Now that house becomes really reachable for you to be a homeowner. And after the second mortgage is forgiven if you stay there for 15 years. So the goal is really to build stakeholders in the community, get people living and working in the city, being able to buy homes in the city, and keeping the affordable so that people who've never really dreamed of and are looking to rent now can own a home. We believe by building equity, you could also build wealth over time, right? And we talk about generational wealth. The first way to get there is through owning your own home and not just renting all the time. So I'm really a big proponent of this Turn the Key program that we put together through council, and also the Land Bank 5149 program. We just sold 3 homes on the affordable side in my district. I have 3 projects ongoing now. Now that it sounds like it's small and it is micro. The goal was 1,000 new homes, right? In 5 years. But it's a start. It's one part of an answer to get this. We need, thousands and thousands of homes available for folks who live in the city who want to live here. And we don't want to be like other cities. And we talk about some of the things maybe Seattle did or New York does. But in Seattle, they had to let everybody working for the city live outside the city because they couldn't afford to live there, right? We don't want that here in the city of Philadelphia. We still have a housing stock available to work on programs like this. And we're open to other programs or other ideas to help how we subsidize. We know when we do a lot of subsidized housing, building a unit, they're costing over $450,000 per unit to build. We need a lot of subsidy if we're going to use government dollars to build affordable housing. That's why we need to look and partner with private developers, look at different ideas and think outside the box of how we could grow our affordable market by partnering with others to do so and not just relying on government dollars to do it.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman, you introduced legislation that would mandate sprinkler systems in residential housing, including retrofitting existing properties. What was the impetus for that? And is there support in the council for that? Will there be a hearing around that legislation? Can you share some light on that legislation?
Sure, yeah. This bill, we had introduced sprinkler bills previously, and we did that along with the National Fire Safety Association and National Fire Code. The bill that we did about 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, was 3 years ago, was on historic buildings where we we had to retrofit historic buildings in a way that would help hopefully prevent catastrophic injuries and saving of the buildings itself. We passed that and was very successful in doing that, working with the National Fire Association and with our local LNI and fire department. This bill is a retrofit of all high rises 75 feet and above. This bill the impetus of this was the 2021 National Fire Safety Code has included that in their document that, countrywide, all buildings 75 feet taller will have to be retrofitted once the 2021 code is accepted. We now in the city of Philadelphia only have accepted the 2018 code, so we're not up to 2021 yet. So the impetus of the bill is to come up with a way of looking at how to do this preemptively, like getting ahead of it, figuring out how we could do it in a way that would not be as negatively impacted when the 2021 National Fire Code is when we accept it. Now, we could take an option of maybe exempting out a certain piece of the fire code until we had the resources to do certain things. But the goal of mine is, and the reason why the bill is still looking and talking about amendments as we work with the condo association lobbyists and the apartment association folks, is, how do we subsidize the cost of that? We work with our law department looking at tax credits and other options to come up with a way to people who need to retrofit their units would have either a tax credit for 10 years or a tax subsidy for 10 years in order to offset whatever cost there would be to do that. We haven't yet been able to come up with a solution. We have a little bit tricky state law in that we have a uniformity clause on taxes so that you can't tax people differently without the state giving you authority to do so. So they would have to give us authority to say, all right, anybody who's retrofitting their building for safety and for adding sprinklers, you would be able to give them a subsidy, a tax credit, or an abatement, and it would be okay for them to do that. We had to do that for, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the homestead or LOOP, long-term owner occupant program. We had to get state approval in order to do that, right? And the LOOP program, we capped at like $25 million. So long-term occupants up to $25 million. We have since increased that cap, but they would be able to stay in the program for life now until they sold their homes, right? So we probably may need, and it's still not, the law department's still working with our state law department, seeing if we need state authorizing legislation to look at subsidies on retrofitting these buildings. Now, again, we know that in the 2021 code, it sort of gives us 13 years to retrofit these buildings, right? So we know we still have time to do this. So it's not like it's a rush to get it done at this point. And we're still taking input from the lobbyists, from the condo owners and the condo owners associations themselves, the printers, the apartment building association. So we're still looking for a way where we could help offset the challenges of implementing something like this. So once we get there, and we talked to a lot of the condo owners. I have a lot in my district. Once we get there with something that we could share, an amendment that would work, we will share that with the associations and all the condos to try to understand and see if we could build understanding on how a subsidy would work if we were going to move this legislation forward at this time. Right now, like I said, the code gives us 13 years to do it. In the legislation too, you could give 13 years to have these installed, but we still haven't got to a place where amendments are available and that we could share what those subsidies would look like in order to move forward with that legislation.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman, it's 9:46. We're coming up on the hour. I'm going to just close out with two more questions, then we'll open it up to the room here for some questions from the association members here. So Thank you again for your time. So, one of my final questions: goals you have, legislative goals that you have for the remaining of this fall season. Can you share some of those with us?
Uh, Two things. Obviously, we just did legislation. We just got it out of committee. Was one of them, which was enforcement of blocking the bus lanes, handicap ramps, um, by implementing cameras on buses and trolleys. This technology will be able to take pictures of vehicles, have them reviewed by the parking authority, and then be able to issue tickets in the mail. We hope this would twofold. There's one is safety for people with disabilities being able to get on and off public transportation and crossing the street. But the other one is congestion. When people are double parked or blocking buses and trolleys, it backs everything up, especially through Center City area. And we're hoping that if people receive a couple violations, that they'll be more conscious the next time in doing that. So therefore, helping reduce congestion and also making it safer. So that was that just came out of committee yesterday, and hopefully that'll pass. The other thing is the implementation of our sound meter cameras. Sound meter cameras was introduced. I introduced it to address the loud noises of a lot of these ATVs, motorcycles, boom cars, and things like that. Instead of chasing them around, these cameras would be able to have microphones on them that directionally, cameras that could pick up where the sound's coming from, take pictures of these vehicles, and also be able to issue violations to them as they go by these cameras. As we spoke earlier, we do believe enforcement works, and it changes behavior. And a lot of people said, well, these cameras aren't going to catch the ones who don't have license plates. That's true. But there are a lot of people who have these boom cars, these loud music vehicles that are legal. And if we could curtail those folks from following these crowds, being a part of these big groups, we could then concentrate specifically on the illegal ones and make it a lot easier and more manageable to address and enforce the ATV dirt bike issue that we have here in the city of Philadelphia. The third thing is really working in building up AMP Court and Community Court. Now that Community Court, AMP Court is up and running this year. We want to make it 5 days a week, alternative misdemeanor program court. But the goal is to get that into 5 days to really send people to the court so they can get services that are needed to help them and enable us to also get some of these folks off the street into a place where they could get better services. So that they are the three goals. There's a lot of other things that we're working on, but they are the three impetus things that I think are important right now. And like I said, public safety is a major issue right now. That needs to be a priority. It don't mean we can't work on multiple things at the same time, but that is the priority for us.
Good. And to finish up, positive finishes for the city. What opportunities do you see for the city of Philadelphia? What positives can you share with us, and why would folks want to continue to move to the city of Philadelphia?
Well, I'm really excited. I am really, really, really excited about the change of administration. I really do believe that you're going to see, leadership that's going to be front and center, and that, taking on the tough issues that we have. Building a relationship with police and community is important. But, we could talk about everything we do in a neighborhood. We have such a great opportunity in 2026 to showcase the city of Philadelphia. It's the 250th birthday of our country, right? We're going to have a lot of events that are being planned through Philly 250, State 250, and then the federal government 250. We could showcase Philadelphia in a way that people would come to our city, right? We got to change the perception. Obviously, we have 2 years to do that. And I really do think starting January 2nd, you'll start to see that change. Making public safety a priority, and people really seeing a change through data of how quality of life issues are being addressed and violent crime being addressed. But when people come, when we have these events in the city of Philadelphia and people see it, being the first World Heritage City, they're going to be an opportunity for us to make 2026 a platform, not a peak where we have a lot of visitors and everybody goes away again, but a platform we could jump off of where people come to the city of Philadelphia and say, wow, that's a great city. They really got their shit together. They got great restaurants. They got great cultural events, great museums. They got great institutions. It's very walkable. And really, when people come into the city from outside the city, they see it better than people who live here, right? They see it for really what the opportunities and the value of it. And it's up to us just to make sure we make it safe so that people could enjoy it. Now, some folks have said to us in 2026 is a challenge because not only do we have the 250th birthday, we have the World Cup coming here. People from all over the world will be coming to see their teams play. There'll be protests and there'll be other things. And listen, that's fine. You know, freedom of speech is something that's in our Constitution, right? Freedom to assemble is in our Constitution. But I think the messaging has to be, if you want to come here and protest, you want to work with the city during those times, great. We allow protest. We welcome them. We'll guide you and do things. But if you want to come here as a protest and think you're going to commit a crime, burn a car, loot, break into a building, that is a crime that will not be tolerated. That will not be addressed, and we will deal with it instantly. That's the message we need to send to folks that want to come here for other reasons other than protesting and want to try to find opportunity in that. We need to make that loud and clear, but we need to start that in the new year. We need to start that right now so that when people say they're not messing around, they know they're not messing around. And then if you're going to go there to do that, there's going to be a consequence for your action. So,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm excited about this new year coming up. I'm excited about 2026. I see that as we have an opportunity to really grow the city. And you're talking about raising revenue when we have all these visitors and we could raise revenue of people who don't live here, right? To me, that should be our goal, and that could be how we grow our tax base, right? So you don't have to raise taxes and other things. Look at ways to even reduce business taxes, but be able to have the same services available.
Absolutely. Councilman, again, I want to thank you for that response and thank you for spending some time with us this morning. And we've got a few minutes left before the top of the hour. We're going to open it up to the room. Matt's going to provide you some questions if you can provide us with some answers. Afterwards, we'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Let's go Phillies. And again, thanks for jumping on with us this morning, Councilman Squilla.
Yeah,
back to you.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for dealing with my little tardiness there. As unfortunate incident in the city. We talk about crime and public safety. You know, that's what happened, and I had to go to a location to deal with that. But you know, we know that everything is important to all people. And it's not like people say, well, just deal with crime and nothing else. We have to deal with crime. We have to deal with public safety, but we also have to address concerns of GPAR, other associations, other businesses, condo owners, apartment owners. You could do more than one thing at a time as a council, right? And we need to address all these things. But our priorities have to be, I believe, on dealing with public safety and making sure we turn this perception around that we're a lawless city and it's not safe. And it's going to take us a little time to do it. It didn't get this way in a year, and it's not going to change in a year, but we could start turning that right now.
Slow and steady. Absolutely, Councilman. Matt, you're going to take over and provide some Councilman with some questions, Matt?
Sure. So, Councilman, thank you so much for working with us today. And I know you're doing this on the fly a little bit with your crazy schedule. You know, that's the life of a council person, always adjusting on the fly. So we've had a number of things pop up in the chat. One thing is the council president race. It's garnered a lot of attention. You know, Council President Clark is going to be retiring. Your name has been kind of bandied about as a potential suitor for that role. Any thoughts about where that stands right now?
Yes. Unfortunately, I really, you know, like I said, with the new opportunity coming in with new leadership and administration, I really saw it as an opportunity also with new leadership in council, and really wanted to, you know, have that spot. And I believe I could work with the new administration and council members to drive this message, you know, drive our priorities and really put us in a great position for 2026. But unfortunately, you know, the way it works is council members themselves vote for individual leadership. I'm in leadership right now as the whip, majority whip for council. And, you know, being in that position, you realize that most of the influence comes through the president's office. It's great to be in a leadership position, but you don't really get to dictate policy and or control council through the other positions. So I saw that as an opportunity. Unfortunately, as speaking to members and trying to gain support, there seems to be a person who has majority of that support already. So I am no longer vying for that seat, and my goal now is to unite council behind the person that has majority of the support and push, our priorities through that. Again, nothing's official until January 2nd when we reorganize. But, it does seem to me now, I didn't see anything in writing, but it does seem to me that there is a person that does have the majority support at this time.
Okay, well, we appreciate you giving us that feedback. Going back to the sprinkler legislation, and you were just mentioning January 2nd. So for our members who don't understand, legislation that has been introduced kind of has, during this session, which lasts for 4 years, has a shelf life. And so whatever doesn't get passed by the last council session this year, we reboot the whole thing. So do you think the sprinkler legislation will get passed this session, or is this going to have to come back when council reconstitutes?
I'm not really sure, because we really, at this time, we don't have an amendment to share that would help offset a lot of the concerns we heard from the apartment and residents of the condos. And until we have some type of subsidy tax credit or something to offset the cost, it's kind of hard to move it forward. So we'll continue to work with, the residents of the condos and the apartment owners on crafting something. They are actually looking at some legislation in Baltimore and other places that had some tax credit type things, but we still may need state enabling legislation.
All right, Councilman. So we're just going to wrap up. Just want to say thank you so much. Our association is in contact with your staff and yourself. You always make yourself available. We may not always agree on everything, but the really cool thing is you always agree to meet with us or to respond to a text message. That goes for Sean, that goes for Ann and yourself. We're very grateful to have that connectivity with you and your staff. That's very meaningful when legislation comes down the pike that is important to our membership and important to our industry. And to be able to have that conversation, we are very grateful for that. We look forward to having that in your next term. Should you be successful next month, but I think that's probably a foregone conclusion. But again, thank you so much for all that on behalf of the connectiveness from our staff to your staff. It's a dynamite thing to have that opportunity to engage and to talk about things that are important to both of us. So thank you very much. GPAR folks.
Real quick, I just want to thank Roderick and GPAR too, because believe me, the members do reach out to me on their own too. And we do take their concerns very, very seriously. We take them into consideration. Again, yes, maybe we don't always agree, but I think the open line of communication helps us get to a better place. And I always believe that people who disagree make legislation better, because you think about things and you look at things differently through the eyes of the person who's being impacted, right? And I think that's an important aspect. And as long as we continue to keep the lines of communication open, I think we'll continue to build legislation that works. Again, maybe not always perfect, but I think we want to make sure that people feel like they're part of the process when we're doing this. So I want to thank GPAR and their leadership for always being there to reach out, whether they're supportive or opposed to something that we're doing. So thank you, and then all your members for being a part of that. And hopefully we'll continue this dialogue and open line of communications moving forward. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Sounds
Councilman.
great.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
All right. Everyone have a great day. GPAR, have a great day. President Walker, thank you so much. Thank you, Councilman Squilla. And go Phils. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.